Stephen A. Smith Show starts right now.
Two of the Stephen A. Smith Show, here with you over the national airwaves of ESPN Radio, 250 plus markets across the United States of America, plus ESPN Radio on Sirius XM, Channel 80, plus ESPN Radio simulcast over the live national television airwaves of ESPN News. Number to call up is always 888-SAY-ESPN. That's 888-729-3776. The Stephen A. Smith Show is being brought to you by Credit Karma. Get your truly free credit scores and free credit monitoring from Credit Karma today. That's Credit Karma, K-A-R-M-A. Get knowing. On the line with us right now, as promised, to start off hour number 2, is a baseball analyst extraordinaire. He does his own afternoon drive show right here on 98.7 FM, ESPN radio station in New York City. Plus, he calls Yankee games for the Yes Networks. He is the great one himself, my buddy, the one and only Michael K. is on the line with yours truly. What's up, Michael? How are you, man?
Good, Stephen. How you doing?
I'm not good, Michael, and I'm about to be alarmed that I'm very, very surprised that you're good. I don't want to overreact, damn it, but I mean losing the season, the opening series, rather, to the Baltimore Orioles. The Baltimore Orioles. I did not expect that from the New York Yankees, Michael K. No reason to be alarmed. There's 162 games. I know, but still, I don't like it. What happened this week? What happened this week with the Yankees against the Orioles?
Well, as the former Yankee manager was likely to say, it's not what you want. I know it's early, but it's really a bad look to lose 2 out of 3 to the Orioles. That's not taking anything away from the Orioles. They'd be the first one to tell you that they're certainly reimagining their team. Mm-hmm. And if you look at last year, Stephen A., the 4 last place teams that the Yankees played, I think they were 25 and 11, which is not bad. Mm-hmm. But the Red Sox were 30-4. And again, I'm rounding that off, and there was a 9-game difference. Mm-hmm. So just like that, the Red Sox beat the Yankees by 8 games. You've got to destroy these teams, and you play them. And the Yankees are playing the Tigers tonight, the first game of a 3-game set. So what happened? I think what happened is that when they fall behind, they start to think too big, and they're trying to hit home runs. And they're pulling off of everything, and they get away from all the situational hitting that they were trumpeting in spring training. And there was one guy really doing that for the Yankees, and that was DJ LeMahieu, who really showed over 2 games what a good player he is. But you've got guys striking out because they're looking to hit home runs, and that was a problem last year in the postseason, and it's a problem in the first 2 losses of this year.
I remember seeing something about Aaron Judge calling out his teammates. Exactly what did he say? Because clearly they didn't respond because they went out and lost the next game. But what did he say to them, and what problem did Aaron Judge have with his Yankee teammates?
Well, he just said, he said to me last week on our show that, when they win the first 2 games of a series this year, they can't take it for granted, okay, we won the series. They've got to try really, really hard to sweep, put the foot on the neck. And after the first loss on Saturday, I was shocked when he said our backs are against the wall. We have to win the next game. You don't want to lose a series to the Orioles. So he said it, and, he got a big hit yesterday, but he also struck out 3 times. So, he did his part in getting the 2-run single, but for the most part, the Yankees as an offense stalled. They left 14 runners on base. They didn't hit with runners in scoring position over the 2 losses, and I think it's going to change. Again, it looks weird because the Orioles are such a bad team, and that's the first series of the year, and you don't want to overreact, but when the star player on the team said your backs are against the wall, and then the team doesn't win a game, it's not a good look.
We're talking to Michael K. right here with Stephen A. ESPN Radio, ESPN News. Before I jump off the Yankees for a quick second, I wanted to read something that I read on MLB.com this morning. And I wrote the quote down, Michael K., and I wanted to know your reaction to it as somebody who calls Yankees games and has done so exceptionally for the last several years. Here's what it said on MLB. It said, describing the Yankees, the age of the cute, plucky, lovable young Yankees is over. When Aaron Judge was leading the upstart Yankees kids into the AL Championship Series 2 years ago, even the most veteran Yankee haters couldn't deny the team's charm. But now, as the Yankees come to the end of a decade in which they haven't reached the World Series once, the first time in 100 years that has happened, everyone is on notice. Your response to that, is that right on point? Is that about accurate?
Well, I don't know if they're not cute and plucky anymore, but I will tell you this. In 2017, it was all new. You know, they weren't expected to do anything. I mean, the time of arrival for this team when they started to reboot it was 2019, which is now. So what they did in 2017, that was all gravy. People expected things out of them last year, and they won 100 games, but they lost in 4 games to the Red Sox. This year, I agree. There's no trophies for participation. They have to win a World Series. They're built to win a World Series. There are very few holes on the team. So, I don't think that people are going to give them a break if they fall short.
Talking to Michael K. right here with Stephen A. ESPN Radio, ESPN News. By the way, Yankees place Giancarlo Stanton on the 10-day injured list with a left bicep strain today before their series opener against the Detroit Tigers. And speaking about the Detroit Tigers, we've got Miguel Cabrera, and everybody's going off because he went 0 for 6 on Sunday. He's clearly started off. He's only had 2 singles in a 3-game stretch. Doesn't look to be himself right now. The Yankees are set to go up against the Tigers. What are your expectations for the Detroit Tigers this year, first of all?
Well, Pacoda, which does the projections for what they think the teams are going to do, Stephen, they have the Orioles and the Tigers as winning the fewest games in the major league. So not much is expected of them. Zimmerman pitched well his first time out, and he had not pitched well last year, so that gives them a little bit of a boost over what was expected. But this is a young team. They're reimagining themselves as well. And when you look at the Yankee schedule, Stephen, the first 9 games, 6 against the Orioles, 3 against the Tigers, that's where you're supposed to get fat. But they got a lot of injuries right now, the Yanks. So Paul O'Neill said this on the broadcast yesterday. The Orioles don't yet know that they're bad. They haven't been convinced of it. So they're still young. They're new to the major leagues, a lot of them. You don't even know their names. I'm sure the Tigers feel the same way. Nobody's told them that they're terrible. So they're going to go out and play with really nothing to lose. The Yankees have something to lose every time they step on the field. So although the schedule on paper looks easy, nothing's easy in baseball because literally the 1962 Mets could win a one game out of 4 or 1 game out of 3 against the 1998 Yankees. That's just the way this sport is. You can't out-physical somebody. Like in basketball, if you have the best players, usually going to win. In football, if you have the best players, you can out-physical the other team. Baseball, you can have the best players, and the other pitcher could have a great day, and you're going to lose. So it's hard to just chalk up and say, well, the Tigers are not going to be good this year, so the Yankees should sweep. Yeah, they should sweep when you look at it on paper, but the game is played on grass.
Mike, it's interesting because I won't deny. I take hitting for granted during the regular season. During the regular season, I'm thinking if you can hit, you're going to win. But I expect great pitching to usurp all things come postseason time. So when I look at the Yankees and I have expectations for them this year, I look at Sale, who struggled miserably in his opener, but I'm just thinking about last year. We know what the Red Sox had. Okay, I look at the Yankees, Severino, even though I really consider him really, really good. Tanaka, even though I consider him really, really good. J.A. Happ, I like him exactly. You acquire Paxton. I'm looking at the New York Yankees, and I still have questions about what their rotation is going to be. I know their bullpen is stout. Please don't get me wrong. I understand that. But I'm talking about in terms of their rotation, whereas it might be a priority in some other people's eyes, to me it is. I have questions about them. What kind of questions do you have about the Yankees rotation for this upcoming season?
Well, I mean, you worry about the health of Severino. That's a huge blow. I disagree with you slightly. I think Severino is a legitimate ace the way he pitched in the first half. That's how good he is. But he's got to return to that, and he's not going to pitch until May. That's a big blow. What does CeCe have left? But the other 3 guys, I'd go to war with them. James Paxton, to me, is going to be the most underrated acquisition that any team had. People just look at him because the Yankees did it early. Not a big name. Played his whole career in Seattle. This guy throws 97, 98. I thought he pitched very well on Saturday. And J. Happ had a rare bad game. He didn't even lose with the Yankees last year. When he came over from the Blue Jays, he was 7-0. And, 3.5-hour rain delay, you don't make excuses, but he didn't pitch well in the first inning. And the Yankees never got the lead. But I think The top three pitchers, Tanaka in 2017 showed that he could pitch in the postseason. He's a money guy. The other two guys I think are really good pitchers. A lot of it depends on Severino, Steven. That's what I worry about. If Severino could get back to the way I've seen him pitch, especially in the first half of last year, Yankee pitching matches up with most teams.
Michael, let me go to some of the big storylines before I let you get on out of here. Let me go to some of the big storylines that have taken place in Major League Baseball. I haven't had an opportunity to talk to you about in the last several weeks. We've got Bryce Harper with 13 years, $330 million. You got Mike Trout with 12 years, $426 million. It was nice to see Bryce Harper. He's hit a home run in the last couple of games. So the Philadelphia Phillies undefeated 3-0 on the season. What did you think about the contract Bryce signed? What did you think about the contract Mike Trout got?
I'll tell you what, I thought the Phillies did a good job on the contract with Bryce Harper. I mean, I think the average annual value is about $25 million.
Yeah.
That's not too bad. I thought he was definitely going to be over a $30 million guy. Yeah, they went to 13 years, but I think that the way they look at it is if they get 10 good years out of him, the last 3 years, if you look at the way the contract's structured, that money's not going to mean that much in 2029. So I think they did a good job, and in that ballpark, I think he's going to rake. As for Trout, I'm shocked, Steven, shocked that the Angels got him for that price. I think that if Mike Trout hit the free agent market, he would have commanded over $42 million a year. That's how good he is. So for them to get him at the money they got him, I thought it was extraordinary. And I think that was the only move. Artie Moreno, the owner of the Angels, could not have lost Mike Trout on his watch. He just couldn't do it. I mean, this is one of the, not just the best players in baseball, Steven, he's one of the best baseball players who ever lived. And if he's your guy, you can't let him go. That's why I'm surprised that Billy Epler and Artie Moreno were able to get him at what I thought was a very reasonable rate.
What about people that look at the sport of baseball and they talk about really ingratiating yourself with that younger audience on the come up, making sure, you know, that your audience gets a bit younger? The average age of a baseball fan is anywhere, I think it's like over 50 years of age. One report said 47, but I thought that was more NFL than and NBA was 44. I think baseball was over 50. They obviously want to ingratiate themselves with a younger audience. And you look at it from that perspective, you say Mike Trout being in Anaheim as opposed to in LA or New York, it would have been better for the sport had he been to one of those markets. What do you say, even though the Los Angeles Angels still in Anaheim, not in Los Angeles, California? But what do you say to folks that make that argument it would have been better for the sport if he were in a better market like that?
Probably would have been better for the sport if he was on an East Coast team, a big market East Coast team. You know, the Yankees, the Mets, the Boston Red Sox, the Phillies, because most of the games would be seen by most of the country. Even if you're on the Dodgers, you know, your games are starting at 10 o'clock at night, 10:30 at night on the East Coast. Most people are sleeping. And also the fact that Mike Trout is a pure baseball player. He doesn't do commercials. He doesn't go hawk products. He's not really on social media. So he's not selling himself. To me, I mean, the way he thinks about it, the way his people think about it, he plays the game. That's what he gets paid for, and I don't blame him. But he's not selling himself as a product. He's not selling himself as a brand. And we see how successful the guys in the NBA are doing that. They are not just basketball players, but they have created brands for themselves. And I think that really has a spillover effect to the sport. Mike Trout goes out and plays baseball at 10:30 every single night in the East Coast, and we don't see him. We just look at the box score or watch the highlights on SportsCenter, and that's what we know about him. We don't know much else. So I'm not sure if he would be any different if he was in Philly or New York, but I think more of the country would see more of him.
Well, definitely, and not only that, I didn't even mention Manny Machado, who signed for $300 million with the San Diego Padres. But with that being said, do you believe all of this puts even more pressure on Bryce Harper to produce because he is on the East Coast in Philadelphia playing at $330 million with a $330 million contract?
I just think playing in Philadelphia is going to put pressure on them. I mean, they do not suffer slumps very well. I mean, you're very familiar with the area. They're tough. They're a tough, demanding fan base, and I think he's a blue collar sort of player with a little flair. I think he landed in the right spot, and I really, if this guy stays healthy, Steven, I don't know how he won't be successful because he's a good baseball player, a very good baseball player, and that ballpark is conducive to everything that he does. So I think the fan base will energize him even more than DC did, and I think he's going to play very well. So in terms of pressure, I think he puts pressure on himself because he's kind of Reggie Jackson once told me that he talked to Aaron Judge this year and said to Aaron Judge, your pressure is playing against Mantle and DiMaggio. You know, so you're playing against the past greats of the Yankees. And Bryce Harper's playing against the expectations of Philadelphia fans. And Philadelphia has now become a title town. All of their teams are good. So I think he's got to keep his end of the bargain. I think he will.
Michael K., always appreciate your time, man. I apologize if I ran out of time to ask you about the New York Mets. I just don't feel like talking about them right now. They're 2-1. They're 2-1. I'll let Don Juan LaGreca talk about them. I'll watch them. And I'm glad they signed DeGrom. How about that? I said something nice about the Mets, Michael K. I'm glad they signed DeGrom.
And and Don and I didn't understand why they did. With a year left before they had to, but we've gotten into a lot of arguments with fans on our show about that. But I heard what you had to say, but I just think that sometimes the Mets play to their fan base and the media that said, "Oh, you have to sign him." No, you don't have to sign him until next year.
Let's tell the truth. You'd rather have DeGrom on the Yankees, wouldn't you?
I think DeGrom's one of the best pitchers in baseball. So
how about that?
I'd want him on my team. Sure.
How about that? He's a stud. Appreciate it, buddy. Thank you so much, Michael K. Take it easy. 888-SAY-ESPN. That's 888-729-3776. You're listening live to Stephen A. ESPN Radio, ESPN News. That was the great Michael K. Afternoon Drive host, 98.7 FM, ESPN Radio in New York City. And the voice of the New York Yankees for the Yes Network right here, bestowing us with his baseball knowledge as only he can. Always appreciate that. Let's get back to the phones at 888-SAY-ESPN. Let's go to it. Let's go to Hayden. You're live with Stephen A. What's up?
Hi, Stephen A. I got a question for you, going back to Zion and the comparisons to Jordan and LeBron. I grew up watching Magic play, and it seems like the world's forgot about Magic Johnson. I mean, stop.
We're talking about Zion Williamson being a physical freak of nature. 280 pounds with a 45-plus inch vertical leap. And the person that you're bringing up is Irvin Magic Johnson, the ultimate champion, a winner, arguably the greatest point guard in NBA history, that had a considerable height advantage over his defenders so he could look over and throw passes over them, but wasn't even in the same stratosphere athletically as the LeBrons and the Zions of the world. And that is the name you come up with, sir?
I think he might be one of the greatest ever, that's all.
One of the greatest what?
True point guard, yes.
Hold on. Is Zion a point guard?
What is his career?
Is Zion a point guard?
No, he's not. Well,
Thank you. No. He's not a point guard. That's an ignorant question. And it draws no comparison. Zero. Magic Johnson has nothing to do with a conversation involving the likes of Zion Williamson or LeBron James. None. Do you think you're going to see Zion playing the point?
No.
Have a nice day. At least you gave one bright answer. Let's go to Joe. You're live with Stephen A. What's up, Joe?
What's up?
Speak up, man.
I called in before the NFL season started, and I asked you who the two worst NFL teams were before the season started. I wanted to congratulate you on being spot on. You said the Raiders and the Bills.
Go ahead.
You said Gruden was going to choke, and you were right. So good call on that one. Second, I asked you if my season tickets to the Spurs were going to come in clutch, if they were still going to make the playoffs, and you were accurate on that, even when everybody was saying the Spurs weren't going to make it. But my question today is, who are the two overrated NBA playoff teams?
Overrated NBA playoff teams?
Yep.
Okay, let me think about that, because I haven't been paying attention to anybody in the East other than the top four. Everybody else has been irrelevant to me. I mean, Miami and Charlotte and people like that are battling for, the eighth playoff spot. Orlando's in the. I'm not thinking about those guys. They're not overrated because we haven't rated them. So I think about the Western Conference. Oklahoma City could be one. But when you talk about overrated, some people might say Denver because of how successful their season is, but what you're expecting from them come postseason. That it might be Denver, but I honestly don't know. Because everybody else, listen, Portland, we can't say overrated. They just got swept by New Orleans in the postseason last year, to Anthony Davis and those boys, and Drew Holiday. Okay? We look at the Clippers. Well, we can't say they're overrated because they've overachieved. Just to be in the playoff picture, about to win 50 games in the regular season. Doc Rivers, it's a legitimate argument. Doc Rivers could be your coach of the year. As great as Budenholzer has been, he does have the Greek freak. Who the hell does Doc Rivers have? Who does Doc Rivers have? So we can look at that. Utah, nice team, right where they should be. around the 4th or 5th slot. So I would say to you, the two teams that come to my and Kawhi Leonard's no longer with San Antonio. DeMar DeRozan is there, so they're right about where they're supposed to be. So I would tell you the two teams, based on your question, would be Denver and OKC.
Okay, do you have a sleeper? And anybody is considered a sleeper if you don't say the Warriors. So anybody.
No.
Who's your sleeper?
Well, anybody. Well, first of all, Houston's not a sleeper. You're awake for Houston. I would tell you right now, if Nurkic hadn't gone down, Portland might have been my sleeper. But right now, I would tell you this. If OKC gets the 7th seed and they don't have to play the Warriors in the first round, I would say to you, OKC might be the sleeper.
I was hoping you might say the Celtics.
No, they're not a sleeper to me. I picked the Celtics to come out of the East. You asked the word sleeper. Sleeper is somebody that'll surprise you, that'll come out of nowhere. No, Boston's supposed to be there. They're not a sleeper. So I wouldn't classify them as that. But that's just me. 888-SAY-ESPN. That's 888-729-3776. Appreciate the call. You're listening live to Stephen A. ESPN Radio and the ESPN News. By the way, ESPN Radio is presented by Progressive Insurance. Progressive's Home Quote Explorer gives you multiple quote options so you can pick what's right for you. See for yourself at Progressive.com.